who are waiting upset, and it just kind of trickles down. The other way I kind of think about it is like, if I had 2 kids and I had an appointment for child A, and I also brought child B, and while they were there, I was like, hey, this one also I think has an ear infection. They're not going to see me. The pediatrician's not going to fit you in. So I feel like in those instances, it's really kind of trying to take advantage of the veterinarian. And it may not be that's how you mean it, right? It may just be you thought, oh, well, if they can see one dog, they can see another dog, and it'll be super fast, and it'll be fine, and they won't mind. It really does kind of affect, it really does affect the schedule. And it then affects the rest of the day, because when you get behind in appointments, other clients get upset, and it creates a stressful environment that doesn't need to be stressful. The last appointment preparation is like I've mentioned this before, but I just thought I would mention it again. Veterinary medicine is tricky in that animals, even if they have insurance, you still have to pay out of pocket, right? So we have to talk about finances, even though we would love not to. We have to give you your options. We can't, like in people medicine, where they say, all right, well, I know insurance isn't going to cover this test, so I'm just going to offer this test, or they just tell you what tests are going to get done. We have to talk to you about the problem and about what we think the next best step would be. And we have to give you your options. We can't just say, okay, you have to do these tests and that's the end of it. And sometimes people get frustrated because they want the veterinarian to make that medical decision. And it's not that we don't want to make the medical decision. It's that the owner needs to be an active participant in the healthcare of their pet. Because whether we like it or not, pets are still considered property. So we cannot tell you what to do with your property. We can advise you on how best to care for your property and treat your property, but I can't tell you what to do. So if your pet's sick and I say we could do X, Y, and Z, right? We could run blood work, we could do x-rays, we could do blood pressure, we could do a urine, and you don't want to do any tests, I'm not saying all those things to make you feel bad. I'm not saying them to try and get a bunch of money out of you, because nobody in their right mind went into veterinary medicine to make a ton of money. There's not a ton of money. Like, we went into veterinary medicine because we love animals and we want to help care for them the best we can. And so our job is to tell you what your options are. And so when clients get upset because they can't afford something, or they think that we're trying to shove diagnostics down their throat, or they think that we're not trying to make a decision, that's not it. I can make a decision, right? My decision about what I would do to my pet may be totally different than my decision or my recommendation for you. Doesn't mean either one's wrong. It's just, I'm a veterinarian, so if there's an issue, right, like I can run the test later. So just remember, your vet is not trying to judge you. They're not trying to make a decision for you. They're not trying to hide a decision, and they're not trying to swindle you for money. They're trying to help your pet the best way they can, and they have to give you treatment options. And if they're not giving you treatment options, then talk to them about giving you treatment options. Because again, our job is to be an advocate for your pet and to provide the best medical care. But we provide the best medical care not just if you can run every test. We provide the best medical care under every circumstance that we can. And if we cannot provide good medical care because of the circumstances, we will tell you. But again, I'm not there to judge you. Everybody's got money issues, right? Like I got a kid in daycare. I got tons of money issues. So I'm going to be the last one to say, oh, you should have run this $500 test, because $500 is a lot of money. But if I think that $500 test is going to provide a lot of value and help your pet, I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's important. And if we decide together that that's what we want to run, then that's what we run. But I can't unilaterally make that decision for you. So I'm going to get off that soapbox. Those are my sound effects. I don't even know if you can really hear it. But I'm going to get down off my soapbox. And we're going to move on. So veterinary life hack number 4, parasites. A few things to talk about as far as parasites go. First and foremost, even indoor-only cats can get fleas, and they can get heartworm disease. Cats are not the normal host, so even one heartworm could be potentially a huge problem. And sudden death, unfortunately, is not an uncommon sign of heartworm disease in cats. So mosquitoes come into your house. I get stung by mosquitoes, I think sometimes more in my house than I do outside, because I remember to put bug spray on when I go outside. So indoor cats really do benefit from flea prevention. often from tick prevention as well, and from heartworm prevention. If you have dogs or you have indoor-outdoor cats in addition to indoor-only cats, they're going to bring all those critters inside with them. So the prevention is really there to help them. Same goes with dogs that are mostly indoors. They still need heartworm prevention, right, because mosquitoes come inside. And they still need flea and tick prevention because they frequently go outside at least a couple times a day to use the bathroom. And we can bring stuff in, especially if we live in a heavily wooded area. Along the lines with preventatives, over-the-counter parasiticides, so heartworm prevention, flea and tick prevention, frequently are not super effective, and they can actually be very harmful. Like, I've seen those off-brand topical flea and tick preventions. Like, I've seen them turn this, when I was an intern, I saw it turn this one dog's skin, like, literally green and bubble. It had such a horrid reaction to it. And along those lines, there's a lot on the internet about natural flea and tick preventatives. And there are some good adjunct repellents. Okay, I'm going to emphasize adjunct. I am an integrative veterinarian. I practice both Eastern and Western medicine. But I will be the first one to tell you, I believe, okay, and again, this is my opinion, I believe you cannot beat true flea and tick preventative. And yes, it is an insecticide. And yes, it is a parasiticide, but they have been proven to be effective. And in my mind, the potential negatives of getting a disease from a tick or a flea or getting heartworm is totally outweighed by the very, very small potential negative effect of the drug. So I will frequently use things like veterinary repel spray or wipes on my pets in addition to my dog gets an oral monthly flea and tick prevention. But I don't use it as the only means. And the last thing is about ticks. All right, so you find a tick on your dog or your cat and you pull it off, and then you see this like little black spot and you think, oh man, I didn't get the head. And then you like dig around, and then 5 minutes later there's this giant crater in your dog and they're bleeding, and then like 2 days later you forget about it, it's like all pussy. There's no head, okay? Like 99.9% of the time you will get the head. And even if you don't get the head, it's not going to keep transmitting disease. Most of the diseases are in the belly or the midgut of the tick. So the head will eventually fall off. Like if you really want to remove it, if you're convinced there is a head and you really, really want to remove it, take it to your vet. But most of the time, that little black dot that you see is actually dried blood from like the blood pool that the tick was feeding from. So you're going to cause more harm rooting around in there, digging for China, trying to find this imaginary head than you are if you just left it. So if you find a tick and you don't want to take it off, take him to your vet. You can set up a tech appointment to take the tick off. Or if you take the tick off and you're worried about it, call your veterinarian and schedule an appointment to have them look at it. Please, please don't dig around in there. All right, our final life hacks for veterinary medicine of the day are going to be about dentistry. First, dog and cat breath is not normal. Their breath shouldn't be super stinky. I mean, if a cat just like gorged on a whole bunch of gross canned fish food, then yes, it's going to smell fishy. But that breath that you smell is bacteria, and that bacteria comes in the form of tartar as well as bacteria under the gum line causing gingivitis. So if your dog has really bad breath, it needs a dental cleaning. Once the tartar is adhered to the tooth, and once there is plaque buildup underneath the gum line causing redness, the only way to get rid of it is with a dental cleaning. And I am not a fan of awake dental cleanings. I think that they lead to microtraumas for the teeth. So dental cleanings in cats and dogs are done, thorough dental cleanings in cats and dogs, which include full mouth x-rays, are done under general anesthesia. So if your dog or cat has really stinky breath, talk to your veterinarian about their teeth and about whether or not a dental cleaning is necessary. The second part of dentistry is bones. So a lot of people like their dogs to chew on bones, and I'm not going to debate, whether or not I approve or disapprove. But what I will say is if you're resolute on having your dog chew on antlers or bones, I want you to keep two things in mind. First, they probably at some point are going to break a tooth. Those big chompers, the carnassial teeth on the side, that's what they use to like shear. That is what they crack down on, and if they hit it in such a way, they will cause what's called a slab fracture, or basically a big chunk of the tooth comes out. And slab fractures, sometimes we can monitor them, but if they get into the innards of the tooth and you see what's called pulp exposure, then the tooth has to come out. Or I think they could probably still do, veterinary dentists could probably still do a root canal with like a crown. But they're probably going to crack a tooth. The other thing to keep in mind is you do not want to feed cooked bones. Cooked bones will splinter, and those sharp shards, when they swallow them in the stomach, they could migrate out of the stomach lining, or they could perforate the bowel, which can cause a whole other host of problems. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. These were our vet life hacks for this podcast. I will cover some more topics in the next one. And I really want to thank all of the amazing veterinarians, technicians, and practice managers from other AAHA Accredited Animal Hospitals that helped me come up with my list of veterinary life hacks. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. But don't turn the podcast off just yet. We still have our 2 pet tales. We are going to hear about Piggy the Puggle and Willie the kitty.
Go. Okay, so one time my dog Piggy was she was running around the living room and she started to squat like she was gonna poop. So my mom is like, "Oh my gosh, somebody grab her!" So my mom grabs her and picks her up, and meanwhile she's still pooping. So she's running with the dog, my dog Piggy, and she's pooping, and then she's like, and all of a sudden like she steps and she slides and like she almost fell. So yeah, it was very exciting times.
Kathleen's shaking her head.
And the same thing has actually happened to me, like, literally the next night.
She picked you up while you were pooping?
Wait, I was like, wait a second. I picked Piggy up because she started to poop in the living room, and I stepped right in it as I was walking to take her out. Because she kept pooping while I was walking. I was like, stop. Oh my God, it was crazy.
Good story.
Like a dog, horse, monkey hybrid. And, it's the only cat I've ever met that will jump over baby gates with perfect horse stance.
Nice. Is there like a little imaginary person on his back?
I wish. And then he doesn't like to jump very much, but like he'll crawl up the cat tree, and it's pretty tall to get away from the dog, so it's pretty funny because he's like, goes with such force that it almost knocks it over.
How does he get along with the Weimaraner?
He likes the dog, but when it's on his terms, kind of thing. So, he'll lay in a chair or whatever, or he'll lay on the dog bed, and then the dog will come up and start licking him. He's like, "Oh my God, no, stop!" But he retaliates because in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep and the dog's sleeping in a chair, he goes over and he pokes the dog's nose, and then gets him to chase him, and then we'll go back and do it again. I make Mommy very angry sometimes because I do this in the middle of the night.
Nocturnal kitty.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing about this knucklehead. He's like, oh my God. He just has this look like, you're embarrassing me.
I know. Like, why are you telling cat tales on me?
This one might actually have music in the background. I won't have to add it. That's nice.
You're being such a good boy.
All right, 1 in a million kitty. You look good.
Well, that's good.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
I think that about wraps it up. As always, thank you for listening to this installment of Vetsplaining. I hope you enjoyed your time with me and ideally learned at least one new thing for the day. If you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, feel free to leave a comment below or email info@independenthillvet.com and put podcast topic or podcast comment in the subject line. Until next time.